What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 6 of Keeping It Real with Kiesel. Happy for everyone, thankful for everyone that's been listening up to this point and tuning in and subscribing on different platforms in terms of the podcast. I definitely appreciate each and every one of you. First episode, doing it live via video, right? I've been trying to get better and better week by week as we keep doing it. And this is what we're doing today, right? So we're recording it on Anchor, also doing a video so I can upload to the YouTube page. So we're going to get better and better as we go, right? Now, this episode, in terms of keeping it real with Kiesel, is going down to the college recruiting process, trying to find that perfect college, what to look for, what not to look for, kind of the experience that I had in terms of finding the right school. I think one of the biggest things is making sure that school checks off all your boxes, right? And I want to put it kind of into two separate categories. We got your, got your athlete, got your non-athlete, right? And what you look for in terms of major, social life, campus, things like that. And just really kind of figure out what works best for you. Because there are a lot of colleges out there, not just here in the States, but abroad as well. But also figuring out, majors, things like that. And there's a whole lot of things that kind of go into it. I think, to kind of start off, just kind of give my story in terms of the college process. Obviously, for those that know, I went to Providence College out of Providence, Rhode Island. And, to be fair, I went there mainly because of soccer, right? It was a situation where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I know I wanted to play soccer in college at a Division I level, just didn't know how it was going to work out. And at the end of the day, it really came down to two schools, right? It came to I had Penn State on one side and I had Providence College on the other. Now, what really kind of tipped my hat or kind of tipped the scale in Providence's favor for me was how I felt at home, right? I think it was a big situation for me in the sense that I'm going through the process. I'm looking to play. I want to do this. I want to do that. But I wanted to make sure I found the right fit, not just, academically, but athletically as well. And, I think one of the biggest things that if I can give any advice to anyone is making sure when you go to these visits, whether you're an athlete or not, you want to make sure that the school is the right fit for you. All right. And that comes to campus size, comes to the enrollment, how many students go there, do they have your major, and everything else, right? I think the culture is probably one of the biggest things when it comes to college, because remember, you're going to be there for 4 years. 4 years is a long time to be in any place, but when you're in the midst of it, you're like, you feel like it flies by, right? If I could go back and do my 4 years again, I would in a heartbeat, 100%, right? So in terms of my process, like I said, I was, I wasn't heavily recruited coming out of high school, but I knew I wanted to play Division I. And like I said, it really kind of came down to Providence and Penn State. So I went to Penn State. Obviously we all know Penn State, we are, all that fun stuff. And great campus, amazing campus, huge campus. Obviously the athletics speak for itself. But it didn't feel right for whatever reason. Whether it was a disconnect with the coaching staff at the time, or maybe the campus was too big for me coming from a small high school, whatever the case was, it was something that was just off, right? And athletically, I got a good deal because of it, but or a good deal I would have for my 4 years, in terms of athletic scholarship. But for me, it just something wasn't right. I went there for unofficial visit. For those that don't know, unofficial visitors, you go visit the school, you meet with the coaches, but they can't pay for anything. You're kind of there on your own dime. They kind of get to show you the campus and things like that, but you're not on a situation where you're spending the night there or get a full kind of view on how it all works. And they wanted me to commit to the school first before I did an official visit, and I wasn't okay with that. I was like, I want to make sure I know exactly what I'm getting into before I sign my NLI or give a verbal commitment or anything like that. And like I said, if you guys heard my previous shows in the past, my word is my bond. So if I commit to something, I want to follow through with it. Now, when it came to Providence, they really made me feel wanted, right? They definitely showed me a lot of love when I went up there. And it was an official visit. They flew me from Philadelphia International Airport to Providence, Rhode Island, picked me up at the airport, and I think the first thing that we did was we went to dinner downtown Providence. And I was like, at the time, listen, I'm a small kid from Delaware, I'm just like, I'm getting into this whole college feel, and they're just like, yeah, take you out to a nice dinner and sit down with the coaching staff and some of the players, and they're just like, yeah, get whatever you want. I'm like, get whatever I want? Yeah, I'm already committed. I haven't even seen the school yet, but if you're going to offer me a free meal, I'm like, yeah, I'm low maintenance when it comes to that stuff. But I definitely felt the love for sure. And when I got there and I got on campus and I got to see the different facilities and what the classes were like and things like that, I mean, that kind of just made it for me. I felt home, right? I felt at home, and it felt like I was at a place where I was going to be able to grow, and the people that were there are going to take care of me. And I think that was probably one of the biggest things. I wanted to be in a place where, even coming from my high school, I only graduated with 83 in my graduating class. I think like 300 in the entire high school. So it came from a really small high school, private high school. So I think on that standpoint, I think Penn State was too big for me, just because it was like a 50,000, 50,000, kids that go to that school. And I was like, I don't want to really be in that lecture hall with, 200 or 300 kids, because like, for you that know me, I'm not the smartest in the bunch, and academics didn't come naturally for me. So I really had to work hard at that, and I needed that accountability in smaller class sizes. And, being at a smaller school, I really kind of felt that one-on-one connection when I got there. I felt like they wanted me, right? I felt that they genuinely wanted me. There was a decent amount of, athletic money involved as well. And Providence College is it's a prestigious school. It's a really good school. Most schools out of the Northeast have a very good education, and the degree holds a lot of weight. So for me, I was like, I think it's a great opportunity. Now, the funny thing is, I didn't know much about Providence going into it. I thought they had a football team, to be honest with you. And I was a kicker in high school, so I was like, oh, this would be great. I could play, I can kick on the football team and still play soccer. It'd be great. I was definitely confused at that point. But either way, it was a situation where I felt wanted, I felt involved, I felt like this was going to be family. I felt like this was going to be a great opportunity for me to definitely set my roots and see what the next 4 years had in store for me, and see how it was going to progress. And at the end of the day, it made the right choice, right? Now going to, and I want to touch on the kids that aren't athletes, right? When you're going into these places and you're doing these campus visits, right? I think one of the biggest things is you have to make sure that it's the right fit for you. All right. And a lot of it goes down to, do they have your major? Right. That's important. Right. And to be fair, we all think that we want to go into one thing when we get there, and then we change our major. I know I changed my major. I knew when I first got there, Providence, I wanted to be a business owner. So I was like, business management, that's what I wanted to do. Find out, me and accounting and math didn't go well together. We had a hate relationship. So that definitely didn't work out in my favor whatsoever. And I changed my major to sociology, because one, I love writing papers, oddly enough, and two, I like to be able to express my thoughts on paper and not really have to be judged by a test, right? I wasn't the best test taker, and I wasn't really good at memorizing things, but I was also able to, I could write out a 5-page paper in like an hour and a half. Like, it was awesome. Like, I loved it. But for kids that aren't going into athlete, or aren't going to school for athletics, they're going there simply just to get their major. I think like the biggest thing is they have your major, right? And they have also other options, like, say if you're 100%, want to go on for business. But I think there should be, a couple of backup plans. And there's going to be like an engineer or whatever, right? That school has at least 3 or 4 majors that are topics that you're interested in studying for a career that's going to set you up for the rest of your life. So I think that's number 1. Number 2, do your homework, right? Do your research. There's plenty of websites online that give you professor reviews in terms of your major. There's plenty of things online where you can go on and see what the campus life is like, whether on or off, what the dorms are like, what the food's like, the social activity, right? I think all those things are going to be super important when you make that decision, because remember, you're going to be there for 4 years, right? 4 years is a long time. And the last thing that you want to do is get there and hate it, and then now you're trying to figure out what's next, right? But I think, roommates are a huge thing, especially if you're going to a new environment where nobody knows you, especially if you're traveling far away from home. And you want to make sure that first roommate you have is going to make the experience, enjoyable, right? Because you're going to be living with this person for a full year and you don't even know who they are. So I think going online, obviously adding them on social media, figuring out what type of person they are, and just get to know them, because, and when you're in college, obviously you're a freshman and you're doing this, and you're doing that, you're in and out, have a little bit of freedom, you want to make sure you're on somewhat sort of like sleep schedules or whatever the case is, because, that can get annoying real quick. I've had plenty of friends that had to find new roommates like a month into their first semester because they hated the person they were with because they were partying too much or whatever, and it didn't work out. So, really making sure that you're finding the right person to room with is also important. And like I said, I think, especially if you're coming from a small school, do you want to go into a big school, right? Do you want schools that are like 10,000 or more? Do you want a school that's close to home or far away? I've had friends that have, gone, 6, 7 hours away, and it worked out for them. For me, being in Delaware, Providence was about a 5-hour drive. So it was like far enough away where, my dad or my family couldn't see me as much as they wanted to, but close enough where if I wanted to have a long weekend at home for, Columbus Day or whatever, 3-day weekend holiday there was, I could go home for that. So I think that's important, right? How far away do you want to go? Because, I if I'm being honest with you guys, I think it's super important to travel. I think it's important to go out and see different parts of the country. So I'm always an advocate for going out and seeing someplace you've never seen before and learning a different culture or a different part of the country that you've never seen and meeting new people. Definitely think that's important as you guys go through that process. And then I think the food's super important when you guys are there, right? See how many dining halls they have. And like talk to the students like while you're there, right? Get an honest perspective on people who are currently going to the school, because they're not going to steer you on. They're not, I remember when I was Providence, and they would do those scores. They'd be like, "Don't go here," and all types of stuff like that, right? But it's you get an honest opinion on what the school is, and what they like, what they don't like, and you can make your assessment from there. But I think that's super important. And obviously we know the grades have to be part of it. Certain SAT score you have to have, or ACT or GPA when coming out of high school. Those are all important things that kind of, if you're going to get in or not. And it's always good to have some backup schools just in case. Either way, you have to make sure you find all the right criteria. And then I think for a lot of us, right, as we are leaving leaving the nest and getting away from our parents, is finding what the social life is like. Is it like a big party school? Is it not? I mean, I know all of us, when we get to college, we all have that time where we're finding ourselves and figuring out the type of person that I am and things like that. And you get to kind of restart. All right. Because high school, everyone knows you for who you are, whether you're in this group or that group or whatever. When you go to college, you're in a different ballgame. Now you're at a point where you're just like, oh, okay. So now I'm the new me, right? And I'm meeting a new friend group and I'm getting involved in things that I might not have done in college. So it's important that we're, definitely being able to branch out and really make the best of it. But that comes with, being close to home, going far away, either way. But I think all those things come important when it comes to the social life, right? Is it a big party school? Are there things to do? Do you want to be in a big city, medium city, small city, or out in the rural, kind of in the country? It's going to come down to, but you have to do your homework. You have to do your research first and foremost, because if you don't, you're going to get there and you're like, wow, like I didn't know this was here. Oh, I didn't know there's nothing else to do outside of campus. For me, I wanted to school in the city. And that was probably another reason why I chose Providence, because it's, its own little city. Boston's like 45 minutes north. There was a couple other schools that I was going through the recruiting process with. Some were in New York City. Some were down in Baltimore. And things like that. So I know for me, I definitely wanted to be in the city because I always wanted to do something, right? I always wanted to experience something new. And that was kind of my take on it. And I think it's important that when you find that school, you put all your effort in getting there, right? And if you can get academic money, be on it, right? I think that's super important, right? As you guys are going through this high school time, right? Put the time into your studies, right? Do those extracurricular activities. That resume, right? It's at the end of the day, you have to realize these schools are getting thousands and thousands of applications every year for people that want to go to their school. Yeah, and you need things that are going to set you apart from the next person. And grade point average is one thing, but there are so many other things as well that are going to make that difference for you. So definitely make sure that you're doing those extracurricular activities, whether you're in sports or book club or chess club or whatever, that's going to set you apart for ones that aren't doing that stuff, right? And then you can get that extra money in terms of financial aid and go from there. Now, even speaking on financial aid, right, or kind of Pell Grants or whatever, there's so many different avenues and ways that families can get money for funding to help out pay for college, right? My mom's been doing financial aid for like 20 years, right? So she knows the stuff really well, and definitely helped me out in terms of, getting different grants from the government, obviously based on income and things like that, to make the student loan debt as least as possible or as less as possible. So definitely do your research on that. Anybody that's interested in learning more about that, please feel free to reach out via email or any of my social media handles. Keep it at Real KB, so on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or send me an email on keepingitreal@gmail.com, or sorry, keepingitrealkb gmail.com. And it's a situation where, get you as much information as you need to know. Now, as we kind of transition, we go to my athletes, right? Those that are looking to play any type of sport in college, right? Now, I'm going to tell you this from my experience. When a coach wants you, right? When a coach is valuing you, they're going to do whatever they can, right? It's obviously within the rule book to get you, right? So, and I think the biggest thing is making sure that you're definitely putting yourself out there, where if you have like a camp or a tournament or a showcase and you're interested in this school, don't give a college coach some cookie cutter, like, already typed up message that you send to 15 different schools. You have to make it genuine, right? You have to put the just how much information that you need to put in there when it comes to that recruiting process. Because if you want to definitely go to that next level, you have to put yourself out there and definitely not be afraid of rejection. Just because maybe one school might not want you, right? Just because one door closed doesn't mean another one opens, or it means another one's going to open. So definitely take advantage of that. I think it's super important that we definitely, as athletes, right, and we're in college and we're in high school trying to get into the college field, whether D1, 2, 3, NAIA, JUCO, whatever you want to call it, that we're putting the best effort out there. Now, same thing goes for my athletes as my non-athletes. You have to go to the school, right? You have to be able to get either an unofficial or official visit to visit and see what the school is like. I think that's super important. And if you can get an official visit and you can spend the night, you can see what campus life is like, what the classes are like in terms of what you're looking to do in terms of major, how your teammates are going to be, who they are, right? Get to know them a little bit, see what the culture is like. That's huge. Absolutely huge, because you don't want to be in a situation where you don't get along or can't relate to your teammates. You want to make sure that you're at a place where you have people that are like you and you can enjoy it and have fun and be a part of a family, not just a team, right? Not just the men's soccer team or football team or whatever. You're part of a family, right? And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for as they kind of take that next step. Now, when it comes to the recruiting process, like I was saying, right, you have to send the emails to the coaches and let them know your schedule and showcases and tournaments. And you want to put as much information as there is possible. You want to make their job as easy as possible, right? Like I said, prime example, like my name is Kiesel Broom and I go to Carabao Academy. My GPA is this. My SAT is this. I'm looking to be a business major at your university, whatever the school is. I play, goalkeeper. My head coach's name is this. These are my stats from the last year. These are the tournaments that I have coming up, and obviously give them specific dates, times, who they're playing, field number, all that fun stuff, just to make it that much easier on them. And they'll come out to see you, right? And I think it's super important that you're making it that much easier for the coaches. Because listen, I've coached in college, at multiple universities, whether it's Penn State, Harrisburg, St. Francis University, Duquesne University, University of Delaware, Wilmington University, as a goalkeeper coach, assistant coach, whatever you want to call it. And I see these emails all the time, right? I see kids giving this, there's no emotion. It doesn't sound like them. It's not, something where they're being themselves. It's just like, you made this template, you change the coach's name, or you forget to change the coach's name, you send them the schedule, you hit send, and then, you hope for the best. I'm telling you from experience and being on both sides of it, you have to, like, it's a must. Make sure that you're putting your own personality into it, because that's what they want. Like, they're not looking for the same cut cloth as everyone else they have on the team. They're looking for that next best thing, right? They're recruiting you because they see value in you to help their program reach the next level. And the only way they're going to do that is by obviously showing up when they come to scout you or come to recruit you, but making sure that you give them all the proper information. And like I said, coaches are going to do whatever they need to do to make sure that you get in. Now, in terms of the evaluating process, right? Obviously, you have to have the grades. I think that's super important just to start out with, right? You have to have the grades to get in. And if you're looking to play the next level in whatever division, you have to definitely put that time in, because if you don't put your time in the books, you're not going to get the opportunity, right? You could be the best player on the planet, but if you can't clear the NCAA clearinghouse, you're not going to be eligible to play, right? And that's one thing, right? For those of you that don't know, that are athletes, the NCAA clearinghouse, there's like a certain type of weighted scale where your GPA has to be this, SAT has to be this, and depending on where you kind of go on that scale allows you to be eligible. And if those two don't match, you're not going to be eligible for that fall semester or that upcoming semester. So making sure that you definitely take the time to do that, or you're going to be in trouble, or you're not going to be, or there's going to pass and find somebody else. Now, I know a lot of kids that I've coached, they're gun ho on going to Division One. Now I'm telling you, like, Division One sounds great, but like, if you're in a position where you can play and get valuable minutes and get a great degree at a Division Two or Division Three school, you might as well do that, right? Division One sounds great, but if you're in a position where you're not going to be starting in your first 2 or 3 years, you're better off, going to a lower division that might have the same or even better quality as a Division One, and be able to play valuable minutes. And there's plenty of guys that are playing professionally, whether here in the United States or overseas, that have gone the Division Two, Division Three route, and they were amazing. But at the end of the day, it's how hard you want to work more than anything else. So Division One, Division Two, Division Three doesn't really matter as much. The biggest thing is make sure you perform when you're playing on your field or on your court. Now, like I said, for my non-athletes, for my athletes, it's going to be even more important that you're definitely taking into consideration the food, right? Obviously, athletes, you got to fuel your body the best way possible. So dining halls are important. How many are there? Like, is there something separate? I know as colleges are getting better and better at the recruiting process and they're putting more money into the programs, you have like all athlete different lounges and cafeterias and things like that, where they really focus on the nutrition side of it. I think that's super important. So making sure that there's something specific for the athletes where they can go and fuel up more than the regular student body. I think if you have a specific position, if there's, like, for me, I was a goalkeeper. So I was looking for a school that had a goalkeeper coach, because I wasn't going to be in a situation where me and the other goalies are going to just shoot balls at each other all day. It's not going to make me better as a goalkeeper. So I was looking for that specific coach more than anything in the pedigree. And, how can that person make me better? That was going to be, that was an underlying factor. There was that position specific coach that was going to improve my game. And that's what you want at the end of the day, right? You don't want to go to a school and not get better. That's pointless, right? You want to go to a school, especially if aspirations of playing at the next level. You want to make sure that you're going to a school that's going to allow you to grow your game and get better. So sorry to go off topic, but nutrition is one of it, right? Classes, right? When does the school have your major? Because if you're gun-ho on being a biomedical or engineer or, doctor or whatever the case is, if that school doesn't have that degree, it doesn't make sense for you to go there, right? At the end of the day, right? It just makes common sense. If the school has your degree, you're going to want to go there, and makes it a little bit easier for you. Also, what's the dorm life like, right? Do athletes have their separate dorms? Are they going to be rooming with their own teammates or regular students? How far is it from different spots on campus? How far is it from your training facility, right? Can you walk? Is the campus small enough where you can walk? Do you have to have your own car on campus? Is there a bus system? All these small things go into factors, right? Because depending on where your school is, like if you're up in like Syracuse, New York, and it's below freezing outside and you need to get to class, are you walking in a tundra, trying to get to class, or is there a certain route that you can go to kind of make it a little bit easier, right? So you have to make sure that you're taking into consideration what the weather's going to be like. Do you want, a warm weather school, a cold weather school? Doesn't matter to you, right? But those things play a role as well. And like I said, it's one thing to go people are so excited. I'm going to college. I'm looking forward to the next step of my life. This is great, but there are so many other underlying factors that we don't think about until we get there. For me, I never had a community shower, which I was very blessed. I didn't have to share a shower with, the student body. Luckily my coach hooked me up freshman through my senior year, where I had my own kind of private shower just with my roommates. I wasn't sharing with the whole floor. So it worked out really well. But dorms, right? How big are the dorm size? Are there apartments off campus? What's the off campus housing like? You can kind of paint the picture for yourself on how the growth will work as you get older in terms of your college career. All right. And then obviously the social life. I think social life is huge, right? Obviously, college is great. We have fun and we party and things like that, but you want to make sure that you're in an environment where you can have that balance, right? And as a student athlete, it's different because you are a full-time student, full-time athlete. You travel a lot for games, so you miss class, you miss, parties and things like that. Being disciplined is super important. So the social life, you might not be able to get as much opportunity as a regular student. It's like when you're a student athlete, it's like having a full-time job, right? And I tell people this, like when you're looking to go, doesn't matter Division 1, 2, or 3, be prepared to put in the commitment, because if you're not going willing to, they're going to find somebody else to. And also you have to abide by team rules, right? You can't be going out and drinking the night before a game or night before practice, because one of you get caught, mostly you and the rest of the team is going to be running, or there's some type of punishment or whatever. And I can't stress this enough, that if you're doing all the right things, it's not going to matter, because the transition is going to be easy for you, and you're going to be able to succeed at a very high level. Now, I think what's super important, not just for athletes, but also for my non-athletic people, is the academic services, or the opportunity to get tutors, or, proofread on papers, things like that. I know Providence, they had an Office of Academic Services where we would have to go in to do study hall. So we had mandatory study hall hours to make sure that we were doing all our work. There also, and it wasn't just for the student athletes, but for the entire campus, you had places where you can go to get tutors, right? For me, like I said, me and math had a hate and hate relationship. I needed to get tutored in math. I'm not ashamed to say that whatsoever, because I had to put in like 10 times more effort than the normal person just to get like a C in my math classes. And that's just how it is. I just wasn't good at math, right? But having services, or like an academic advisor, or somebody that you can go to kind of keep you on track in terms of your learning, I think is important, especially when it comes to writing papers as well. They have, tutors in terms of, English majors that, they grade papers, help you. They don't write it for you, obviously, but they're there to help you, guide you in terms of, making sure that your papers are all on top of it. You're on top of your papers and helping you get the best grade possible. So I think having those kind of services are a big part of it as well. Can you be in a situation where you're helping, there's services that are able to help you kind of reach your max potential? Because like not everything's going to come naturally to you unless you're just super smart and you just kind of have it like that. Hat off to you. Awesome. But for some of us, we kind of need that extra help. So making sure those services are there. And I know this is a lot, right? But the thing about it, right? Like I said, you're going to be at this school for 4 years, right? So being on top of it is really important in terms of a lot of different things, with making sure that you're finding the right fit. So we went over, obviously the dorm life, we went over social aspect. I think the athletic program itself is super important, right? You want to be at a place where, one, you can play, right? I don't think anybody wants to sit on the bench for 4 years. You want to be at a place where there's opportunity to play. And that comes down to you doing your own homework in terms of what their depth chart is like, right? Who are is there any graduating seniors in your current position, which is going to kind of keep that spot open for you going in. Now be mindful, right? There's other people on the roster that might be able to fit into that slot. But one thing for me, when I chose Providence, the senior graduated right before my fall freshman year. So even though I knew there were 2 other goalkeepers there, it was an open spot. So that enticed me a little bit more. Just like, oh, well, you know what? It's open season. If I can, put the time and effort in, I might be able to do something great and start freshman year. Right? Obviously didn't work out. I wasn't ready, more than anything. I definitely wasn't ready to play at that level. But the opportunity was what really enticed me, right? On top of, obviously, I love the school, I love being in the city, I like the small class sizes, the academic help, the facilities, or even better now, dorm life, social life, everything was kind of a check mark for me, right? I checked all the boxes. But having the opportunity to play is super important, right? And if you're one of those players that's versatile and you can play, different lines, different positions, you have the opportunity to kind of, be a chameleon per se, definitely take that opportunity, because the coach is going to see value in you at that point in time. And for all my student athletes, don't be afraid to redshirt, right? Redshirting is a great opportunity. One thing that I took full advantage of. I didn't play my freshman year, and I took that opportunity to go to the gym on top of practice, right? I was being able to kind of work myself up to get myself up to speed. And it took me almost a full year to really kind of get up to the level of play which I needed to. But if I have to look back, I would 100% do it all over again, because I was actually ready at that point in time, right? So don't be afraid to redshirt, and then use that opportunity to better yourself, right? Take the time to learn more about campus life. Can you balance, class schedule with practice schedule, with lifts, with, academic advisor meetings, with tutors, with traveling for away games, still being able to get your assignments in on time, right? that first semester, the first year is super important just to get acclimated to it. And like I said, for those of you that are looking to play at the next level in college, it is a full-time commitment, right? This isn't something you can be half in, half out. And you have to make sure that you're abiding by the rules. So if you're not doing it now in high school, most likely you're not going to be able to make it in college. I'll be honest with you. If you're not following the rules or doing the right things on or off the field, just because it's going to translate over, but it's going to be even a bigger repercussion. So making sure that we're definitely doing that, and allowing us to keep going. But I think one of the biggest things is making sure that we are on top of our game more than anything. And as I'm kind of closing out here, I think one of the biggest things for us is just making sure that we're taking every opportunity possible to let it be known that you're serious about making that decision. You're serious about definitely being a part of something bigger than just yourself, because in Providence it was program, team, self, right? So making sure that you're on top of it and making it as big as possible, and making it as best situation possible for you. And as I'm wrapping up, just kind of touching on the parents, right? Making sure that we're equipping our kids for the best thing. Obviously, I don't have any kids, but I remember going to freshman year, I had kids in my dorm that didn't even know how to do laundry, right? Or small things like that. And making sure that we're getting them ready for that next step in their life, where we could definitely set the pace and help them get to that next level, and help them be on their own, right? 4 years are going to be super important for them, and getting to that next stage in their life and being, preparing themselves for the real world. And I think, especially as we kind of get towards the end of our college career, doing a lot of things outside of athletics, or even just being a regular student, that's going to set yourself apart when it comes to the job search, right? Being in a situation, are you a part of different clubs on campus? Are you a part of doing, being a part of different clubs or fraternities or sororities or club sports? I mean, if you're not going to be an NCAA student athlete, obviously club sports are still available to make it that much easier. So making sure that we're still doing all the right things, that's one of the biggest things, because employers are looking for that team mentality, working in groups, different clubs and activities, right? And then also with the major, how important were you doing things outside of it? And me, as I kind of transition out from playing soccer professionally, obviously athletes are things that are always are what's called, the radar goes off when a resume comes across my desk. I'm just like, oh, well, this person was an athlete and probably have a really good work ethic, right? They know how to manage a schedule. They know how to work in a team. They know how to get good coaching. I'm sure there's some type of leadership on top of it. There are so many different things that play a huge role when it comes to that. So making sure that we're doing all those right things, and we're building our resume, right? We're promoting ourselves. We're marketing ourselves. That once we get done playing, because listen, we can't play this game forever. And when it comes time to it, we definitely have to get to that next step in our life, and making sure that we're giving ourselves the best opportunity to find a career path that we can use our skills to our advantage. And I think that's one of the biggest things for a lot of people, is making sure that you're putting yourself in a great position to be successful in life, right? And as I kind of wrap up here, no matter what you decide to do when it comes to that college recruiting process, or you're looking for that perfect college, make sure that you're checking off all the boxes. Make sure that it has the certain type of life that you want to live while you're there, whether you're in the city or in the country or anywhere in between, that you're 6 hours from home or 5 minutes down the road. Whatever that's going to make you happy at the end of the day, that's going to be the biggest message. And making sure that you're going to be happy at that institution, making sure that your major's there, most importantly, but you're finding yourself as an individual with everything around you. So whether athlete, non-athlete, making sure we're doing all the right things to make sure that we're happy, right? Because those 4 years are going to fly by, but it's going to take a minute for sure. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate you once again listening to episode 6 of Keeping It Real with Kiesel. This is my take, my opinion, and keeping it real. Feel free to subscribe on Anchor, Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can check out my social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Keeping It Real KB is the handle, or shoot me an email at keepingitrealkb@gmail.com. Thank you guys again, and looking forward to next week. See ya.